Hello, everyone. Welcome to Love Amplified. I am your host, Gayla Lawrence, author of Love Amplified How Caregiving Reveals the Heart's True Capacity. Earlier today, I had a live one on one interview with Luis Giampa. He is the owner of Right at Home Westchester. It's an in home care service for seniors and the disabled. If you watch the video live or if you watch the replay, you'll notice that I had some technical difficulties. So I decided to redo the intro. Right at home services provide services for those people that want to stay at home. You don't need to go into a full time facility, you just need some care at home. So take a listen. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions or if you need any contact information, you know what to do. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the program. Good morning, Lou.
Hi, Gayla. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Oh, I'm so glad you were able to join us, give us some of your time today.
My
Uh,
pleasure.
so to my audience, I met Lou Giampa through a friend of mine who told me about his service, who thought it might be beneficial to my viewers out there. And so I'm so glad that he was willing to join us today to give us a few minutes of his time to let us know about Right at Home services. So tell us about Right at Home and what inspired you to bring this type of service to our community.
Sure. So I had a pretty interesting path to becoming in the home care business. I spent the first 15 years of my career on Wall Street, working for various banks and hedge funds. About 12 years ago, my grandmother was actually diagnosed with dementia. It was a very traumatic time for myself and my family. I wanted to do something to help her. So I actually left my job on Wall Street. I became a certified nurse's aide and went through the training to become one of my grandmother's caregivers. It was a truly remarkable experience being able to care for someone you love, but also getting the training to be able to do that professionally. From there, I worked at a skilled nursing unit in a dementia unit. I also became a certified dementia trainer. It's particularly my passion to work with people with dementia and other kinds of afflictions. And that's how we started the home care agency. So we started the agency about 11 and a half years ago. It's called Right at Home. We're located. We have two offices, one in White Plains and one in Eastchester. We service the Bronx and Westchester County, and we're a New York State licensed agency. So what that means is we can do the whole gamut of care, from companionship care, which is basically helping make meals, clean the house, take your doctor's appointments, to personal care, which could be hands-on assistance with bathing, dressing, toileting, ambulation assistance, showering assistance, to even skilled nursing care, med management, wound care, other things that are directed by my RN. So it's pretty great because whether someone just needs a handful of hours or really needs heavy duty care, my agency is able to stay with them without the whole walks of life. We do work in the homes, we do work in nursing homes and assisted livings as well, if that's what they call home. So you really can get these kind of services anywhere you want. So I have a great staff here. I always, put all the accolades onto them. I have 11 full-time ladies in my office that are care managers, nurses, professionals that oversee all the cases. They're truly the lifesavers for our business. And they're just a great group of people. We were recently named by Home Care Pulse a top 100 home care agency in the entire country out of 450,000, which was pretty cool because that criteria was based on two things. Number one is what your clients are saying about you, which is very, very important. But number two, it's also what your employees and your caregivers are saying about you, which we think are equally important because we really, really do take a long time to match our caregivers to our clients to make sure it's just a perfect scenario for both parties. So the people that have worked for me, they're my employees, the caregivers, they've been with me for 7, 8, 9, 10 years. They're truly amazing. They're the real angels out there in the field.
Wow, that's great. Well, congratulations on that. That's impressive.
Thank you.
Um, my second question, what sets Right at Home apart from other in-home care providers?
Yeah, so I think we're a high-end concierge agency. We answer the phones nights and weekends, 24/7 on call. You get a live person from my office that's answering the phone. I think we're very involved in the care. We get the families involved. We get the whole set of loved ones, whatever the community is involved with as well. We're on top of things. If there's changes in condition, My caregivers report it to my office. My nurse goes there right away to take a look at them. We can get medically involved if possible. I think we help the families through a lot of trials and tribulations and kind of help them to adapt to home care, figure out what they need, what other support systems they need in their life, whether they need geriatric care management or elder care attorneys or home remodifications. We have contacts for everything. So we really do see ourselves as senior advocates that try to help people with the whole aging process. Home care is a very big part of it, but it's not the only part of it. I also think the thing that really makes us unique, for myself, I'm a certified dementia trainer and I work in a dementia facility. I can tell you that the problem with a lot of agencies out there is sometimes they're putting warm bodies into the home. I think you really have to understand your client and understand the needs and do a really deep dive into their personality, their physical needs, their emotional needs to get the right caregiver in there with the right experience. For example, we don't put warm bodies in the home after a detailed matching care profile. We put the right person in your home to get good outcomes. Particularly with dementia clients, I will not put any caregivers in the home unless they've had very specifically trained dementia experience. Because that's the only way to have a really great outcome and be under someone that understands the diagnosis and the disease that we're dealing with. So, the good agencies always do stuff like that. We really pride ourselves on that, and it does lead to much better outcomes for the clients and their families.
Wow, that's great. So how do you match caregivers with the clients to ensure there's a good fit?
Great question. So first we do a free assessment where my nurse or one of my care managers goes out to visit the client and their families, because we do want their input as well if they like to be around. Again, we get to know their physical needs, their personality, their emotional makeup, what type of caregiver they're looking for. Do they need someone assertive, someone that's more quiet in demeanor, someone that's going to match the days and times and the hours and the location that they're comfortable with. My nurses come back with a full report. They sit down with my whole staff and do a care matching profile meeting, and they select a caregiver that's really correct for them. And I'll tell you, because it's so detailed, we really do get this right almost every time, first time around. But if we give you a great caregiver and you need someone that maybe is a little bit more assertive or a little bit more easygoing, it's just not the perfect match, we can also change that person out right away. We have great people in the office. We check in with the families, regularly. We do supervised and unsupervised visits. We call them the first day. We visit with them to see how everything went, what we can do to make it better. But we also call the caregiver because we want to make sure the caregiver has an exemplary experience. We want to make sure that they're happy with the case and this is an appropriate case for them. I think being involved that much really makes sure that we make a right match. Some of my clients have really had the same caregiver for 10, 11 years. So I think that makes a world of difference.
I'm sorry, I lost you for a minute there.
So the last thing I said was some of my caregivers have been with my clients for 10, 11 years, and I think it makes a world of difference by taking the time to put the right person in the home.
That's fantastic. There was something you said. So this is very important. I love that you said that you check in with the caregiver because the right temperament is important.
Yes.
Right. So it's not just about the skill set, the right temperament between the client and the caregiver.
Yeah. Because that's how matches are made. All of our people are certified. They might be home health aides or personal care aides, certified nurses aides or LPNs or RNs. But we also want to make sure every person is different, that their makeup and what they're looking for and their personality matches what the client is looking for. And I think when you make those deep connections and you do it correctly, our caregivers are really an extension of the family after a period of time. They really just become, entwined, and they're looking forward to the days and hours that we're going to be there, and that's our job.
Yeah, that's great. So, for families who are watching, who are caring for their loved ones, when is the right time to consider a professional in home care?
So there's a lot of things that go into that. So first, I think you have to really keep an eye on the person that you're caring for, the person that isn't part of your family or friends makeup. Some easy warning signs are take a look at their clothing, their appearance. Do they look a little bit, unkept, a little disheveled at times? Take a look at the pill boxes. One of the really important things. Try to, take account if they're missing medications or double dosing medications. It's something that we see happen far too often. Take a look at the refrigerator. It'll tell you everything. Are there expired foods in the fridge? Are they really just warming up TV dinners for themselves? Or are they having like nutritious meals? One of the sad things that we do see is a lot of times people are married, husband and wife, could be 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. And when you lose that loved one and you've been having meals with them and cooking for two or cooking for kids as well, dinners and lunches are a big deal. But sometimes when you're on your own, that kind of goes by the wayside. And instead of making something really good to eat, wholesome, nutritious, you're just kind of heating up leftovers or having a TV dinner or something that really is not satisfying or nutritionally value. That's where the caregivers can come into play. Our caregivers can go out and take you to the store and, figure out what to get, what you're craving for, make a meal for two. You can even share a meal with the caregiver. A lot of those things are very, very important, is the nutrition. Again, one of the really touchy subjects has to do with driving a car when that's still appropriate. So if you're nervous about something, we can always recommend you to a place to do a free driving evaluation to make sure they're still appropriate to drive. There are services out there like that. You want to make sure that you see any extra dents in the car. Do you see someone that might be trying to go 2 blocks to go to the grocery store and sometimes they end up a state away? I mean, we get these calls all the time. So you have to be very mindful of those kind of things as well. When you start seeing cognitive issues, sometimes you have to get medically involved. Sometimes it's more than just kind of normal aging, so to speak. So we do recommend seeing certain neurological doctors to go over cognitive issues. Sometimes these are not easy conversations to have. We really understand that. And if you have difficulty broaching these conversations with a loved one, we actually have a great resource called the Right Conversations Guide that we give to people for free. It's kind of like a step-by-step guide of questions to ask, how to broach the topics, how to respect what that person wants. Because a lot of people are resistant to care. And I think that, you have to let them have care on their own terms, especially in the beginning. Remember, especially early on, the care is not really just to do everything for you. That's not what you need. It's really to help you maintain your independence so that you can stay inside your home if that's what your wish is and not have to move to someplace else. And the biggest thing, and I say this all the time, if you're a family caregiver like I was, it's fantastic. It's a noble thing to do. I really do think the world of people who attempt it. But remember something, you're not a professional. And sometimes no matter what you do, your spouse or your parent might not be taking direction from you because you're not a professional, where our caregivers might be able to get them to do certain things. And even if you are able to do these things, I really, really believe that family members need respite at some points in time. It's a documented fact that if the care needs are great and the spouse or the adult children are the one providing the care, if they're not taking care of themselves, their own health can go down very quickly. So one of the things I really do explain to people during our assessments and our initial phone calls is that as great as the care can be for the loved one that receives the care, it could be equally good, if not better, for the person that we take some of the pressure off. We're giving them peace of mind. We're helping them out. Maybe just a couple days a week, you're a family caregiver, but you need to do something on your own. You want to go spend time with your family and friends, and you want to go to a show or go to a movie. But you want peace of mind that for those few hours, somebody's there taking care of your loved one. We can provide that. And I think it's very, very important. And there are some great programs out there now the federal government has the GUIDE program through Medicare, which will actually cover respite services if someone's diagnosed with dementia. There's some grants from the Alzheimer's Association for respite care for family caregivers. Most people don't know these things exist, but when you call some place like our agency, we'll tell you everything that's out there and try to get you a little bit of help that you need. And remember something too, it's flexible. The care needs change over time. So we allow people to be flexible with what they're looking for. Maybe they need a handful of hours now because someone's not feeling well. Maybe they just need us for a week or two because they're going on vacation, need us to stay with mom and dad. But especially if, a lot of times we're seeing that the adult children might live across the country and they're worried about mom or dad. We can really be their eyes and ears while they're not here. We can protect them, we can advocate for them, we can make sure that they're getting the care that they need, also that no one is taking advantage of them financially, emotionally, or in any different ways. So we really are just kind of like an extension of the family at some point in time. So it's pretty cool what we can actually provide.
That's a great service. I know when my sister and I took care of our mom in home, uh, we both worked full time.
Yeah.
And we did have CNAs come, uh, but as you know, from a CNA perspective, they can't do medication. They're limited in what they're approved to do. Is that
Right.
correct?
That is correct. So in only a registered nurse in the state of New York can actually administer a medication.
Okay.
They can set up pill boxes. As long as the family or the client is self-directing, we can set up the nurse can set up the pill boxes for them, or we can coordinate blister pack deliveries from the pharmacy so they can get their medication. And the physical aides can actually remind them and help them with the medication, but we can't pour medication. But my registered nurses can do that. That is actually a skilled nursing service that we can provide.
Right. That's great. When my sister and I were taking care of our mom, uh, I'm an administrator, right? So
Mhm.
I like organization, I do lists and things of that nature. And so to track, and my background is in pharmaceuticals. So I'm
Okay.
comfortable with medication, talking to doctors, that kind of thing. So I would be responsible for mom's day to day in respect to keeping like a checklist on the refrigerator.
Right.
And so we felt like, hey, we were doing it, we got it. And there was one day I didn't check off that I gave mom insulin.
Okay.
So my twin gives mom insulin. I gave mom insulin.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. So thankfully, we were to get a nurse on the phone. They told us what to do. And so I just love that you present the fact that these are some things you need to look at to decide, maybe it's time to bring somebody in.
Right.
Because we got to a point we realized, okay, we love mom. We didn't think we could trust people, but the fact is, we have a full time job, right? And so you have all these other things, and again, we're not professionals,
Right.
and so we might be moving about our day and forgetting to check off something, and not that mistakes doesn't happen with anyone, but a professional would be more guarded in that respect. They would pay more attention to something
Right.
like that. So that's important to say, hey, you know what, you might want to consider bringing someone in. And I love the fact that your services is kind of customized, right? So it
Right.
could be just a few days, it could be a couple of weeks, and just here and there when you might need them to kind of uh, give yourself a break.
Yeah, that's the best thing
I
that
like
we can
that.
do for family members because the needs change and conditions change. So we
Yeah,
have to change with our families. I mean, again, your own dynamics change. You
right.
might have a certain job working certain hours, and then your job changes. You need someone to come in for different times. And you mentioned something that's really important. It's hard sometimes as family members to, have that level of trust that someone else can care for the person that you really deeply care about. And, that's why it's very, very important to do your work on the agencies that you're dealing with. You really have to do your homework because there's some great agencies out there and there's some not so great agencies out there. And the caregivers themselves in the field are vitally important, 100%, but they are a piece of the puzzle. The really great scenarios and outcomes come from when you have a great agency that manages great people and
Mhm.
works directly with great caregivers, and that's how the whole experience comes together. So it really is vitally important for you to work with the best agencies, to trust what they're doing. Again, the most important thing too is to use LICSs. It's an LHCSA. That's a New York State licensed home care agency. Because in New York, LICSs are regulated by the Department of Health. They're allowed to provide all these kind of hands-on services. They go through the utmost regulations. They can only hire certified people to provide these. They're background checked and drug screened.
Mhm.
So it's a lot for people to imagine. A lot of times I get the phone call that, hey, we were in a pinch and my neighbor knew someone and this person came over as a private caregiver. And more often than not, those things don't really work out.
Mhm.
So it's important for people to do their homework and to really work with very reputable licensed agencies.
Yeah, that's great. Now I know we kind of already kind of hit on this. I wanted to ask about how Right at Home not only supports the client, but also the family so they won't feel overwhelmed and burn out. And you kind of started talking about respite care.
Yeah, I mean, the respite is such a big deal because, like I said, it is a documented fact that the family member's health could also go down if they're working too much. So they have to find time to take breaks. There are great resources out there. Like I briefly mentioned before, Medicare has a new program through the Guide program that we're a member of. That if you're caring for someone with dementia, you can get $2,500 to $3,000 paid for by the government for care for you to take your breaks because they know how important it is. The Alzheimer's Association has similar types of grants. There are support groups out there for family caregivers. There's a lot of them. There's, again, like what you do is fantastic because it's a sounding board for people that can be part of a group that can talk about their situations, like-minded experiences. These groups are so critical because it's a lot easier to deal with something when someone else is also going through something similar, and someone else might have tried something that could fit into your lifestyle scenario. So you're never alone. There are some great support systems out there. And like I said, I go back to what I said of trying to be a lot more than just a home care agency. We really are, senior and family advocates because there's so many different resources out there that we try to connect people to. For instance, I'll give you an example. We do free consultations, free assessments. If someone were to call my office and ask me about this and that, they might not even be a potential client with us. But my team is trained that they are people first. So you're going to give them a half hour, an hour on the phone, whatever it is, to guide them in the right direction to help them out. Because that's why we're here for at the end of the day. We are here to help the person on the other end of that phone, whether they're a potential client or not, to navigate a very difficult situation. We've been doing this a long time, 12 years, being, one of the top agencies in Westchester, a great, well-trained staff that can really answer any questions that people have. And I think it's just vitally important to advocate for people and to share these experiences and to share the resources that we have and the knowledge so they can make a decision that's best for them and for their family members. So the key is not to get overwhelmed. Always remember there's people in similar situations and there's help available to you because it can be a very overwhelming situation. A lot of times if there's a big change of condition and this stuff happens all at once, it can be quite overwhelming.
Yeah.
You're not alone.
Yeah, and that's important. A lot of caregivers feel alone, and so this is great to know the services out there. Now, you kind of touched already on this, going beyond the basic daily care
Mhm.
that you offer to your clients. How customizable is it? Your
Yeah.
service?
So the great thing is, we have some clients that use us a couple days a week just to kind of make their meals, take them to the doctor, get them out and about, clean the house, just minor stuff. And then we have some people that we do 24/7 round the clock care for, where we do everything for them. I think it's important that like I said, only licensed agencies can allow to provide this type of hands-on care. So when you start out with the basic stuff, you're working with a company that knows you. And as your needs change, we change with you. And sometimes these changes where you need more help or more care are temporary. There are times where someone just, is sick or they had a fall and they're coming out of rehab and then we have to up the hours for a couple of weeks to get them back to health. And then they cut the hours right back to a level that they need them. Again, the biggest thing that I can do for you is to be flexible, is to kind of help you through the periods of time when you need additional help. And honestly, we're the long-term solution for a lot of people, but for a lot of people, we're a short-term solution. You might just be coming out of the hospital or rehab, and we take care of you for a couple of weeks. We nurse you back to health. We stop services. There's no contracts with us. That's what's great about this. And then the same client calls me back 3 years later because they remember the great care. I'm like, okay, I think we need a little bit of help again. We remembered what you did for us 3 years ago. It's time to re-engage. At the end of the day, once you're a client, you're always a client. So whatever I can do to help you, whether it's short-term, long-term, get you through a rough patch in your life or something that's going on, we're going to do it. We're here for you.
That's great. This service is specific to seniors, or is it to anyone who's?
So it's seniors and disabled, but it's anyone over the age of 18. So
Ah,
again, we do work with some very difficult cases. I have people in their 30s and 40s that might be accident victims or stroke victims and different things that happen. So we do take care for them. So the majority of our cases are due for seniors, but really it's for any adult that's either a senior or someone that's disabled or needs a little bit of help.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, that's great. Do you have any success stories you could share with us about the impact that Right at Home has had?
So I feel like I have thousands of them. It'd be very hard to pick.
Okay.
You know, there's some things that are, in certain families over 12 years, we've worked with so many great people, and some just always stick out. And there's some that I still use as success stories to people. That a lot of times someone calls me, it's the son or daughter, and they know mom and dad need care, and they're so upset because they don't think they're going to be accepting of this, and they pour their hearts out to us, like, what do we do? How do we get them to need this? And I always tell them, there's ways around all this stuff. It's just about timing and being with the right people. So when we first started, first couple years in business, a niece had called us up and said, I need, my uncle doesn't have anyone. He has no other family but me, and he needs a lot of help. And he's so unaccepting of help. So I don't think this is going to work, but what could we possibly do? I said, not a problem. Let's do the assessment together. So myself and my nurse went out to visit the uncle with the daughter. We talked about what he needed, and he actually needed a lot of help. But he wasn't really accepting of that. So we kind of did a personality matching profile. We found an aide that we thought would be a really, really good fit for him. So just to make it comfortable, I went back the next day with the aide, because he knew me at that point, to introduce the aide. So the aide stayed there for the day. They had a really good time, the two of them. They got a lot of stuff done. He was in very good spirits. So the niece was very happy. The next day, the aide shows up for work, and the uncle, is typical fashion, just wouldn't let the aide in. I don't want this. I don't need this. So we knew he needed a lot, and she didn't want him to be put in a facility. So the niece called me up crying. I said, look, it's still early on in the game. They had a really good day yesterday. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of time. Let's reorient the situation a little bit. Meet me at his home. We'll reintroduce the aide for another day, and let's see how it goes after day 2. Well, by the end of day 2, the aide, because we put a really good person in to match him, and the uncle had created such a bond. But when it was time for the aide to go, he was literally holding onto her leg, asking her not to leave. But it took a little bit of time. And what happened is, we were only doing a few days a week at that time. He became so trusting of the aide and the agency that he saw the value. We made a great fit, and they eventually upped the hours to whatever it is that he really needed. All of a sudden, this gentleman's life turned around. His nutrition was healthy, his hygiene, his mood. He was interacting in the community. We got him out and about into the senior centers, and he lived for another 8 years with that aide, had a vibrant lifestyle. And the niece said, normal people would have quit after the first day, but the persistence in the process really, for the most part, saved my uncle's life and prolonged it and gave him a very happy, years. And I'm like, that's the kind of stuff that we really built our agency. And this has happened just dozens and dozens and dozens of times. So when I get that phone call and someone says, there's just no way my mom or my dad are going to accept this, I tell them, if we do our job and we get the right people in there, we do this correctly, there's a strong chance that they will. So let's work together as a team, figure these problems out, because we're in this together. And I think that's kind of, it's just one small example. There's been thousands of others, but it gives people hope when they say, I can't tell you how many times I heard my parents or my dad or my husband is so difficult, he's never going to accept this. And most times we actually end up getting in there and being a good relationship for a long time.
Oh, I love that. That's a great one. That's a great story. That's important. A lot of times when we find that you have a loved one that is not receptive to the help, you do need to keep trying. And I just love that you guys just kept trying. And that's important. And it helps the family member not give up and know that there's someone who's going to be compassionate in regards to their approach, and they know what they're doing. That's important. So how do you ensure your caregivers are trained, compassionate, and trustworthy?
Okay, so being a caregiver myself, went through nursing school, which I had, great group of people that I went to school with. I had the most amazing nursing teacher in the world. I knew the kind of values that we were looking for. We have a lot of caregivers on our staff, and we interview a lot of people, but we don't feel like everyone is a perfect fit for Right at Home because we're looking for certain values. Again, certifications, training, background checks and drug screens. We do all the basic stuff, but we're really trying to get down to what I would say is the why. Like, why do you want to be a caregiver? So we really get into that. If you do become a member of the Right at Home caregiving team, we offer a tremendous amount of support, rewards, mentors in the program, concierge services. So we really do take care of the people that do work for us because we feel like they're just as important as our clients. But we really have to get down to why do you want to be a caregiver? And it's funny because I go back to my first day in nursing school. I had the most fantastic nursing teacher who became a mentor to me. She had been doing this for 40 years. And she addressed the class on the very first day, and she said this story that always resonated with me. She said, "Listen, anyone here in this classroom that is looking for be a pretty woman story, this is not the right place for you." And someone raised their hand, like, "Well, what is the pretty woman story? What does that mean?" And he said, "Well, listen, if you think you're going to take care of a sweet old lady for a couple years and she's going to leave you the house, the car, the jewelry, and everything else, that's not the kind of caregivers that we're looking for." And we laughed because we thought it was funny, but she was very serious. She goes, "This is an industry that is more of a calling, okay? The rewards in this business are so much greater than monetary. You get to look yourself in the mirror every day and know that you made a difference in someone else's life. That without you, maybe someone didn't eat today or didn't get their medication or wasn't able to take a shower. Maybe if you weren't there, someone fell and got really hurt and ended up in a facility they couldn't get out of." So you have to be very careful why you want to do this. For me, it was a calling. Started with my grandmother, working with other dementia patients in the facility. I knew this is what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to help people. I knew that I don't look at this as just a business. I look at this as a service that is there for everyone, and try to help people whether they're clients or not. My whole team in the office has the same mentality. That's why we sit there and talk to people and really do what we do. It's just a team of great people, and we take that kind of qualities and that experience, and that's what we look for in our caregivers and our recruiting. And we tell them our mission, our why. This is why we do what we do, and that's what we're looking for. And if people are not, we hire, are not up to that standard, they don't stay with our agency very long. But a lot of my caregivers have been with me since opening, and we keep hiring the best and great people. We try to take care of them, and it does make all the difference. And like I said, there are so many people that we've cared for years. When that person, if they unfortunately pass, our caregivers sometimes are deeply hurt because they're family members at that point. So we provide counseling and grief counseling for them because they become members of the family at some point when we do what we're doing correctly, when we're getting the right person with the right people, and it means a lot. My staff, tries to work with the families as well. We work with some really great people, and we just try to do what's right at the end of the day. And like I said, I go back to when I worked at a different job, it wasn't nearly as fulfilling. And here, I can look myself in the mirror every day and said, we did good today. We helped a lot of people through a lot of challenges, and we made a difference in people's lives. So I think that has to resonate from the top down to the office staff, into the caregivers in the field. It's really our why. Like, why are we doing this? So, I only want to hire people and put people out there that I would want caring for my own parents and my own grandparents.
Yeah. Um, that's great. You've already spoken about how how you would encourage a family to uh, who may be hesitant about letting a stranger care for their loved one. Well, I guess with the introduction and kind of testing out temperament and helping them assess, hey, this is where you are. This looks like you really will need outside help, and we're going to help you go through that process. So I love that because that's important, and that's something that we had to do. Uh, what I like to, it goes beyond having the person in home because once we had to transfer our mom to a facility because she got to a point where she stopped walking,
Right.
and my sister and I couldn't really move her around, so we had to put her in a facility. But we ended up hiring somebody to watch for her when she's in the facility.
Yep.
And because we wanted kind of a companion, to sit with her because there was some memory issues and we were just concerned about, her not getting assistance as often as others would. And that's something you also provide, right? You
Yeah,
will.
so that's a great point. We advocate for people. So a lot of what we do is in the home, but we do work in assisted livings and nursing homes and independent livings and other places and rehabs because, if someone's in a rehab or a nursing home, we're there to be their advocate.
Yeah.
We are there to be an extension of the family, just like a son or daughter would, to make sure, did you get bathed today? Did you get her 3 meals? Did they answer the call bell fast enough? Are we able to advocate for our client? And again, to give you peace of mind, a lot of our sons and daughters, they would like a nightly report. Hey, what happened last night with mom in this facility? Can you let us know? And we provide them that information, and they know then that the facility's doing their job and that mom's okay, and it's important to be part of that continuum. So I think it's vital. And I think why families really do like what we have to offer is I go back to the point that we're flexible. There's no contracts. Like you can
Right.
literally try us out and see how it fits into your lifestyle. Maybe home care is right for you. Maybe you need to make a different decision. But it's a lot easier to hire someone like us to come in for a couple weeks and see if it works than to make bigger life decisions and downsizing and this and
Yeah.
that. So a lot of times we're the first choice. Listen, sometimes people are not appropriate for the home. Sometimes they need a different setting, and we're
Okay.
full client advocates, so we'll work whatever you are. But a lot of times people do try the home first because it's kind of the easiest, and because again, there's no commitments and you're not locked into anything. We're just going to kind of do what you need to do and see if this works for you and your family. You have questions, we'll keep changing and tailoring our care to whatever it is that you need. We work with the families to see, what's going right and what we can change and how we can adjust some outcomes. But I think that the vast majority of our clients are greatly appreciative of what we can provide and the difference that we've made in their loved one's life.
Yeah. That's important. That's great. So I think for my final question,
Okay.
how can someone get started with you? What's the initial process? What does it look like for a family or a new client?
Yeah, it's very easy actually. So we're available 24/7. My team is always here to answer any phone calls. If you get our phone number is 914-468-1944. If you call that number, you can have a free consultation with any of the members of my team. There's care managers and nurses here. They'll talk a little bit about your situation, your loved one, what they're going through, what you're looking for. Maybe we can help you, or maybe we can get you pointed in the right direction of something else that you need. Again, you can think of us as a senior advocate. The more information you give us, the better. We can tell you about all these amazing programs that are out there that, a layperson would have no idea what the county could offer, what the government could offer, what the veterans benefits and union benefits and long-term care insurance and, you name it. There is just so much stuff out there, but it depends on what you need. So if you tell us your situation, you tell us what's going on with mom and dad physically, the setting, where they want to be, what the goals are, have that free consultation. If it's something that you think that we can provide help, then we can do a complimentary assessment. We can send my nurse out there just to take a look. We can make recommendations based on what we find. At that point, if you want to move forward, it's your option. We're happy to help as soon as possible. And if it's something short-term, long-term, it's just really up to the family members. We're going to hold your hand throughout the whole process. If you have a long-term care policy, we'll do a free review for you. We'll kind of teach you how to use it, how to set it up. We'll even handle the claims for you. So it's one less thing you have to do. People really do appreciate that because it can be quite daunting. If you are a veteran or a spouse of a veteran, we can get you in touch with some services that might be complimentary that you can. A lot of our clients don't pay a dollar out of pocket because we found programs for them that are out there that they had no idea were there. And that's why I always say the best thing you can do is, give us a phone call. Sometimes it's for a family member. Sometimes you're just noticing a neighbor or someone down the road might need a little bit of help, and you just want to find out how you can best help them. Give us a call. Maybe we'll give you some service information and some people you can reach out to. So just to be a good neighbor. There's so many different things that we can provide. Like I said, well, everything that we do, from the phone calls to the assessments is complimentary. So, if people have questions and just have a rough idea, maybe this is not something mom and dad needs for a year or two for now, but you just want to make a plan, find out what's out there, what can be done. Give us a call. Happy to chat with you. You can speak to me or any of the members of my team. They're really great people. We'll try to do whatever we can for you. That's our promise.
That's awesome. This was great. I appreciate you taking the time with us today.
Oh, my pleasure, Gayla.
I did post last week about the CE program
Okay, great.
you guys have coming up. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we have a lot of continuing education programs coming up. Like, so whether you're just a family caregiver or you're a social worker or a nurse and need credit for your licensure, we're approved by New York State to do free CEU webinars. They're always on fantastic topics. We have a bunch of them. I think we have one coming up. We have the aging brain health one coming up in August. I think we have another one this week. We do about 10 to 12 a year. They're always on various topics for people. It could be on Parkinson's, it could be on dementia, it could be on ALS, it could be just caring for a loved one, it could be how to dress for the season, fall prevention. We've done so many of them. They're great educational webinars. They're free, so you can just watch the course for an hour, and if it helps you, fantastic. Anyone that wants to be on the distribution list to get access to this every month, if you shoot me your email, I'm happy to add you to the distribution list. And if you find it helpful, you can share it. Like I said, it's just we're really big on education, on kind of helping people. So some topics might be just up your alley, and some topics you might not be so much interested in. So you really pick and choose what you'd like to visit. But if it can help you make a better decision on a loved one or a family member or something else going on, we encourage you to take them.
Yeah. This is great. I love that. I love that it's available to the professional caregiver. You get
Yep.
your CE, your continuing ed credit. And for the family caregiver, you get the information. And it's free for all. I love that.
Yep. My pleasure.
Well, thank you for your time. I'm going to release you and say thank you. And hopefully, once I get some questions back from the audience, those who listen live or to the replay, I'll be able to come back to you and we can get some more information from you. And if I get any questions about contacting you, I'll forward those as well.
Sounds good. Well, Gayla, thank you very much for having me on your program. I really appreciate it. I love talking about the subject matter. And for the audience, hopefully something here helped you today. And if you have any further questions, my door is always open. I wish you best of luck in your caregiver experience. And thank you, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too.
I'm going to send you back to the stage. Awesome. Well, that was great conversation. I hope you all got some great information. If you need some contact information, do what you always do and post your comments in the chat. You can just send me your questions if you need more information from Lou to hear more about Right at Home Westchester. So do what we always do. What should we be doing? We should be amplifying love. Thank you for allowing me to join you on your caregiving journey. Until next time.